Hello, my name is Pollyanna Blanco, and I'm going to be your host today. And I'm excited to talk to you about this topic of the year of the fire horse. So many people are talking about the fire horse, a symbol of passion and freedom. And what we also, in my heart of hearts, feel we really need to be talking about is that the shadow of passion is burnout. So that unbridled passion, that freedom seeking horse that's in go mode is really what I want to address today, because in today's show, we're going to look at how to transform that potential for burnout this year into your greatest gift. And I'm going to unpack all of that because if you're passionate about contributing your piece of the puzzle to heaven on earth, this year, so many, people are already talking about how this is heralding in rapid changes and shifts that are coming. And while this sounds super exciting, there's another critical aspect to how each and every one of us is showing up. So we're going to delve into the reasons why so that you can move forward in 2026 with your eyes wide open, feeling safe and grounded in your body so your heart can remain open too. Welcome to a whole new season of Chakra-Care for the creative soul. As I shared with you a moment ago, I'm your host, Pollyanna Blanco, the healer's healer, and I love guiding visionary women to move from exhausted to epic, transforming challenges into sacred soul gifts, co-creating radiant resilience, creative courage, and tapping into their divine wealth. My clients learn to care for themselves as deeply as they care for the world. Are you ready to feel soul nourished and flourish? This is so much more than a show. It's a frequency field that we are co-creating together, and the live chat is up. So I look forward to checking it out a little later on in the show. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate, or comments, please don't hesitate to drop them in the show. It's also a space for remembering of the creative love and light that you truly are, your essence, your soul. I'm here to guide you through the birth canal of your own creativity and ultimately champion you to do the same for yourself by holding that safe, sacred space for the emergence of new timelines in you. Self-care is definitely not a luxury. And I'm here, it's my mission to really unpack on this show the difference between conventional self-care and what makes self-care ultimately sacred. And that's why it's so more than ever in this year, 2026, the fire horse year, not a luxury. It's actually a sacred preparation for your creative capacity beyond your wildest imaginings. True creation requires safety, stillness, and sovereignty, as I shared last time. You know that the body is your first temple. It is the house of your soul. And you also understand that creativity cannot flow through depletion either. You feel that the rise of conscious creativity requires a foundation of embodied presence. You know that your life is not a role, it is a resonance. Your path is not linear, it's a spiral. That's why restoring the sacred to your self-care while birthing your dreams into a beautiful reality is about so much more than a routine. It's hand on heart, a ritual. It's not about managing your to-do list. It's your energetic field maintenance. What truly sustains your energy is how you cultivate coherence. When your creativity is both expressed and fully embodied, it nourishes your multidimensional wellness. And we're going to unpack that on the show too. Our conversations here will go beyond conventional approaches by offering an ascended awareness of how to shine through these rapidly shifting times. Are you ready to become radiantly resilient no matter what's going on around you? So we're going to jump in today. And before we do, I just want to share with you that if you're new to this show, if you're meeting me for the first time, that I have been on this inner awakening journey now for well over 20 years. I'm a sacred self-care coach. I also like to call myself a creative midwife because that describes really what my soul mission is. It's to guide beautiful creative souls like yourself while you're moving along your inner awakening journey to care as much for yourself as you care for the world while you're birthing your dreams into a beautiful reality. So just the way you would have a maybe have a physical, in your physical childbirth experience, if you birth children or are planning to, had a doula or a midwife in that sense. There's also so much that comes up along our inner awakening journeys when we're tapping into that deeper purpose and reason for being here that also requires at times that container of safety and presence and witnessing and mirroring to help you to really root into an expanded and fuller expression of who you truly are on a soul level as a creative soul. So I'm excited to get started. And, you know, radiant resilience is ultimately what this is all about. The last show that was scheduled to go, because I'm doing them every 2 weeks now, just to be fully transparent, because I feel like as I walk my talk, I can serve you better. And 2 weeks ago, I was getting through recovering from a cold flu, and I had a lot of wonky tech issues, and I ended up taking the show down because it just was a very unstable transmission technically. And even this morning, a moment ago or this afternoon, a moment ago when I attempted to go live, a few other wonky things happened. And I'm grateful for those moments now in my life. In the past, they used to totally knock me off my center and keep me from moving forward and spin me out in stories. And now I am deeply, deeply grateful for my capacity to be with everything as it's showing up. So, this is why this show is so important to me to share with you. And we're going to go for about, I'm keeping an eye on the time here, about 20 minutes max. So, if you do have any questions along the way, I will be checking in a little bit. But the one thing I can say is that I've been reading and just noticing what people are sharing about the year of the fire horse. And it's an exciting time that we're moving into, there's no question. And if you are a light worker, if you are passionate about the new earth and the new human that is merging, and you feel called to serve, and you're tapping into, tuning into your greater reason for being here, or maybe you're not sure what it even is yet, you just know that you showed up at this time on earth for something so much vaster than maybe what you even understand yet. There's going to be a lot of go energy in 2026. A lot of people are talking about how this is not a time to sit and make plans. It's a time to be dynamic and take action. And that's wonderful. You know, there are different seasons and cycles, and being in a season that supports that dynamic, action oriented focus is valuable. However, there's a shadow side to that, and this is where the sacred self care comes in. I know from my own um, runaway horse experiences, and I'm going to share a little story with you in a moment, that passion without the inner work is not sustainable. I'm going to say that again. And again, only take this if it resonates for you. I just felt really called in my heart of hearts to share this with you today, to consider, to contemplate, to reflect on, and see how it may possibly relate to your own journey. And if you're watching this, perhaps it does. You know, I grew up with a father who came from another country. who worked incredibly hard. Both my parents were incredibly hardworking. My brother's hardworking. And so I had the program of hard work really ingrained in my programming. And there is a time to be really disciplined and to work hard. But when it's unrelenting, when you feel guilty if you take a rest, when you feel less than if you're not productive, this is where the slippery slope comes in. And I've been unwinding this program inside of myself my whole life, as I know many other people have. And part of it is we are so programmed to focus on the world out there at the expense of paying attention to the world in here inside of yourself. You know, we're encouraged and inspired to act out there without having first taken the necessary and essential critical time to contemplate, to be with ourselves, to slow down, to offer ourselves recovery periods. And rest is about not just sleep. Yes, the quality of our sleep. When I look at a lot of conventional self care, it's very valuable. Drink enough water, get enough sleep, get movement, get exercise, be outside in nature. All of these things are, as you know, profoundly nourishing and deeply essential too. What I would also add into the mix with that is that restoring the sacred to your self care is bringing your consciousness to that. It's not just about the doing, it's about how you're being with yourself in any of that. In our modern, fast paced world, the idea of sometimes sitting and meditating. I know I worked with a client years ago who wanted to learn to meditate and was really struggling with that because there was so much swirling around in her life at that time. And she really struggled with that, to slow down and to be still with herself. It was uncomfortable. And I've heard from other people too that sometimes I don't have time for that, or I'd like to, it's on my wish list, it's on my bucket list. Contemplation, which is the art of just noticing what you're noticing, is something you can do when you go for a walk in nature, when you go on the treadmill or the exercise bike. And you can even do it while you're cooking or gardening. It's different than mindfulness and it's different than meditation. And I've come to realize I've been doing contemplation my whole life. However, in those moments where I've been in go mode, it's been the first thing to fall away. And yet I get excited. Sometimes so much information wants to come through me that I do get tongue tied. So this is just a little tick of mine. When I'm in a really busy phase in my life where there's a lot going on. I mean, I teach full time. I've been growing a sacred self-care coaching practice, and I am passionate about serving you. One of the first things, and I've become much more conscious of this in my own field of awareness, is letting the contemplation slip away and let the distractions and the noise in my own outer world infiltrate my field to the point where it's like all these different radio stations are playing. So one of the things you really can do to, in a very simple way, to restore the sacred to your self-care is to invite in contemplation. Contemplation, another way to think of it, is spaciousness, inner spaciousness to daydream. It's to just muse on something, which is very different from overthinking something, because the difference is you engage the heart. You engage your body and the physical sensations that you're noticing. It's not just all happening, up here. That's contemplation. It's about communing with your whole being and with the environment that you're in, especially if you're in nature. That's such a beautiful way to have everything that you're experiencing amplified and mirrored, even, and supported and nourished. So, as we move into 2026, and so much out there is saying this is the year to make it happen, to go full throttle, to not only do you need periods of recovery, because without those periods of recovery, it's not sustainable. That's what leads to burnout, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual burnout. The recovery time goes beyond a doing. It's how you're being. So if you're on the treadmill and you're on your phone and distracted, or watching the news, stream at the gym, or worrying about what you're going to do next, or ruminating about things, then that's very different than contemplation. And right now, the true freedom that a lot of us are seeking is that inner freedom. And we can't find it outside of ourselves. It's such a misnomer to think that we can. One of the things that I think I'm going to bring in a little anecdote right now, and then I'm going to go to the chat and see if there are any comments or thoughts. I have been really walking my talk in the past almost close to 3 weeks now. I've been moving through a cold flu, like I shared with you about a week ago or so more. I tried to go on and do a show, and it was a train wreck, which is okay. It's all good. It's all fertilizer for the soul, right? And it was a reminder that the foundation for 2026 is giving myself the rest, is giving myself not just sleep. Sleep is really important, but inner spaciousness, time to really connect within even more deeply than I realized I hadn't been giving myself. Because, rest is, really tricky in our modern world in the one sense, because, even now with social media and stuff like that and algorithms, there's a relentlessness to it. And when we're relentless with ourselves, that's what leads to burnout. We cannot afford to be relentless with ourselves. We have to be open to recovery, restoration, renewal, so that we can rebirth. And we need to give ourselves permission, even when that inner voice of fear comes up and says, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, what will happen? We're all, as a humanity, collectively unwinding fear. And the story I was going to just share with you, I'm going to share with you now. It's a horse story, so I don't know if anyone out there has a horse story and you want to drop it in the comments. But years ago, many moons ago, when I was in high school, when I was a teenager, I had a dear close friend of mine whose parents had a hobby farm. And I had never ridden a horse before, so I went out to her family's hobby farm north of the city, and she had a horse and a couple horses and a couple ponies. And this one horse she put me on, she reminded me that a horse can sense if you're nervous, if you're unsure of yourself. It will feel it, because horses are very attuned to their riders and to humans in general when you're with them. That's why there's equine therapy. And actually, one of the teachers I trained with for my Reiki did a lot of equine therapy with horses. And so anyways, I got on this horse, and she gave me all the cues to give the horse to go forwards, backwards, speed up, slow down. This horse was a very playful horse. And when I asked it with my bodily gestures to go forward, it went backwards. When I asked it to stop, it started moving. When I asked it to start moving, it stopped. And she said, "It's playing with you." And she also said it notices that you're nervous and therefore it's trying to play with you, right? Well, fast forward many years later, I was just getting into teaching. I was actually working with a, a teacher in a practice teaching placement. And I don't know, we got onto the topic of horses because she did dressage and she brought out a picture of her horse. And I said, "Oh my goodness, horse looks really familiar." And then I of my friend from high school on her horse, and she recognized the horse right away. And she said, "That was my horse. I sold her at auction. I couldn't manage to keep her any longer." And it turns out that that was exactly, we kind of cross fact checked and everything. That was the horse that my friend's family had adopted. And that horse had been originally working as a police horse and it'd be in parades and things like that. But it actually got, this is kind of cute, fired from the police force because it would wander off during parades. So here's the nugget in this little anecdote that I felt kind of guided in a playful way to share with you because it is a playful story about how our shadow will dance with us, it will play with us. When we're trying to move forward, if we're just focused on everything we need to do out there without the counterbalance of also taking time to really connect within and be with ourselves in here, then our shadow will play with us. We'll wonder why, when we're saying, "I want to go forward" or "I want to keep going," the opposite will happen or something will go wonky because there's something there that needs and wants our attention. In fact, a little game I've been playing with myself, I mentioned this before a while back on the show, is, and it's been deepening lately too, and it's something, another game you can play with yourself as well too, is noticing the difference between what your mind says and what your body asks for. For example, originally, I noticed from doing some cold plunge experiences that my body felt so invigorated and refreshed after being in the cold. Although my mind resisted it like crazy. Like it was just like, "Oh my goodness, I cannot go in that cold water." But when I spoke to the mind and said, "Thank you, now it's time for the body to have what it needs," I know it felt better to honor both. So the way I would do that on a practical level is at the end of my nice, warm, cozy shower, I would do a cold infusion and I would notice my mind and honor my body. And that really opened up an aha moment for me. And it might for you too. You might be already be doing something like that. And then now I've been deepening that practice of contemplating because when I was coming down with this cold flu, I noticed the dichotomy, the contrast between what my mind thought was going to happen and what my body was voting for. My mind thought, "I'm going to do another show." My body was like, "Oh, no, you're not." We're going to break out into a coughing fit in the middle of it. And I'm grateful for those experiences because from that presence of contemplation, of noticing what I'm noticing, and looking even deeper than that, it's been helping me to transform that resistance, that push-pull dynamic within me into the gift of adventure, inner adventure, rather than looking at it as being, an issue or a problem or a struggle. It's actually an invitation. And so I share that with you because this year moving forward, it's so important to give yourself the grace of that time to connect within and to notice what you're noticing. I'm going to take a moment right now and just go really quickly to the chat, just in case anyone's here live. And let me just take a quick peek here. And okay, no one's here live. That's okay. If you have any questions or comments, I encourage you to drop them in the chat. And before I sign off here, I just want to share that, I've got a ton of free resources. If anything I've been sharing with you is pinging for you or resonating with you, then I've got a root chakra. It's safe to be creative, 30-minute infinity healing audio that is a wonderful way to help you to begin to connect to this process that I'm talking about in a guided way. And it will activate something powerful within you, because sometimes we just need a mirror to show us what we deep down inside already know how to do for ourselves. And that's what I'm here to be, is to walk beside you through whatever you're going through. You can walk beside you, and it's a blessing to connect with you. You can always hop on a call, a discovery call with me. I call them miracle map sessions, because a miracle is just a shift in perception according to A Course in Miracles. And I just want to leave you with this final thought before I meet you back here again 2 weeks from now. Same time, same channel, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And that is that you have all the inner technology you need inside of you. The key thing is to honor your own rhythm, the rhythm of your soul, not to impose a rhythm on yourself. And that's where the contemplation comes in. Without the contemplation, there can really be no true self-care that is ultimately sacred. It's just another doing. It's better than not doing it. But ultimately, for these times that we're living in, deepening how you care for yourself and returning the sacred to it is bar none essential. It's been an honor and a pleasure to share with you today. Wishing you infinite creative abundance and creative blessings. May your February be fabulous.